What if I told you that the smartphone in your pocket and the electric vehicle in your garage depend on minerals mined by children earning just $1 a day? And what if these same minerals have sparked a new Cold War between China and the United States? Africa's critical minerals are fueling our digital world, while igniting a global power struggle that will shape the 21st century.
Cobalt is toxic. It's toxic to touch, it's toxic to breathe. So I have seen thousands of women with babies strapped to their backs inhaling toxic cobalt dust day in and day out. 10-year-old children caked in toxic filth, exposing themselves to toxic cobalt and the ore that these children are digging.
The continent holds the key to the green energy transition, with resources the modern world simply cannot function without.
Hence, the center stage now, that role that is being played by critical minerals, because they are now coming in as components in either production of materials that are required for green energy generation, or for transmission, or for energy storage.
Africa is home to an extraordinary concentration of minerals essential for renewable energy, defense systems, and consumer electronics. The Democratic Republic of Congo alone produces 3/4 of the world's cobalt, the key ingredient in lithium-ion batteries powering everything from smartphones to electric vehicles.
No continent is richer in natural resources than Africa, with an abundance of agriculture, oil and gas, and not least minerals critical to the energy transition and AI.
But Congo isn't alone. South Africa dominates platinum and manganese production. Zimbabwe holds vast lithium reserves. Guinea possesses enormous bauxite deposits. These aren't just valuable commodities, they're the foundation of modern technology and the green energy revolution.
Now everyone is alerted to the idea that, we need green energy sources. So where are we going to get the critical minerals that are required for storage of the energy, let's say? Because we're transitioning into electric motor vehicles, you will need a battery-powered car, but you need long range, so you need longer storage capacity in the batteries.
The irony is striking. The world's cleanest technologies depend on some of the dirtiest extraction methods. And while these minerals power our modern lifestyle, the countries producing them remain among the world's poorest. In this high-stakes game, one player has established a commanding lead: China. While Western nations focused elsewhere, Beijing recognized the strategic importance of African minerals and began systematically securing mining rights across the continent.
And China was then searching for new partners around the world, right, to break out of its isolation. So Africa then became extremely important in that context. And so it is not a coincidence that 1991 is the year when China started this outreach to the African continent. The vast majority of polled Africans in the different age cohorts welcome Chinese engagement and see Chinese engagement as positive.
The approach was simple but effective: offer infrastructure for minerals deals that African governments found difficult to refuse. Chinese companies now control the majority of cobalt production in the Congo and have established dominance throughout the supply chain.
Let's be very clear, in the past 20 years, the Chinese have lent or invested $153 billion, mostly in infrastructure. And a lot of that is in power infrastructure, rail infrastructure, and a lot of that was for the growth and development that was African-led, by the way.
China's investment doesn't always prioritize environmental protection or labor standards. Instead, it focuses on securing resources at all costs, even if that means dealing with corrupt regimes or overlooking human rights abuses.
That Chinese-owned entities aren't carrying out adequate environmental impact assessments or upholding those safeguards. So we see significant issues like deforestation and habitat destruction as forests are cleared to make way for mining infrastructure. There are concerns with water contamination. Improper handling of mine tailings and wastewater can mean release of toxic substances into rivers and streams that local communities are dependent on, right, for their livelihoods, for their health and well-being.
This dominance gives China extraordinary leverage over global supply chains, threatening to lock out competitors, a situation that has finally awakened Western nations to the strategic threat. The race for Africa's minerals has created a humanitarian crisis that remains largely hidden from consumers. In the DRC, cobalt mining often relies on artisanal miners, including tens of thousands of children, who work in dangerous conditions for poverty wages.
Artisanal mining means these tens of thousands of children, hundreds of thousands of people scrounging at the ground with pickaxes, shovels, stretches of rebar, or their bare hands to pull cobalt out of the ground and feed it up the chain. Many of these people are digging inside industrial mines, and outside of the Congo, tech and EV companies will have you believe that that does not happen, but the truth on the ground is very different.
These children risk their lives daily, exposed to toxic substances and dangerous conditions, all to earn a pittance that barely sustains their families.
When I wake up every morning, I feel terrible knowing I have to come back here again. Everything hurts.
When I'm working here, I'm suffering. My mother, she's already dead, and I have to work all day, and my head hurts me.
The economic disparity is staggering. While tech CEOs earn thousands per hour, the children mining the materials for their products earn mere dollars per day, if they're lucky.
So at the bottom end, children could be earning 50 cents to $1 for rinsing and sieving and sorting. And at the best, on the best day, tunnel digging males and teenage boys might earn $5 or $6 or $7, but putting their lives at risk for a potentially horrid demise each and every day.
Tech companies claim to enforce ethical sourcing, but investigations reveal child-mined cobalt still enters the formal supply chain. After decades of unfavorable deals, African nations are beginning to assert more control over their mineral wealth. The DRC is reviewing its agreements with Chinese companies, demanding better terms that benefit local populations.
The Democratic Republic of Congo is reviewing its $6 billion infrastructure for minerals deal with Chinese investor. Now, President Felix Tshisekedi said in May already that some mining contracts would be reviewed because of concerns that they are not sufficiently benefiting Congo.
Zimbabwe has imposed export bans on raw lithium to encourage domestic processing. Other countries are following suit, recognizing that exporting raw materials has left them with environmental damage but little economic benefit.
All right, still in southern Africa, Zimbabwe's mining sector is registering unprecedented growth for the first time in history, with earnings jumping to $5.2 billion in 2021 from about $2.9 billion in 2017 as the positive gains continue.
Meanwhile, the United States has finally awakened to China's strategic advantage and is scrambling to secure its own access to critical minerals. The DRC has proposed a partnership giving the U.S. access to minerals in exchange for security assistance.
The Democratic Republic of Congo has reportedly put a deal on the table for U.S. President Donald Trump. It has called for help in defeating the rebel forces in exchange for access to a trove of minerals. The partnership will improve and would provide the United States with a strategic advantage by securing critical minerals such as cobalt, lithium, copper, and tantalum.
This would likely involve tricky renegotiations of mining contracts, while it is difficult to see the Trump administration being able to mobilize U.S. investors.
This shift represents a potential turning point. After centuries of exploitation, African nations are leveraging their mineral wealth to demand better deals and recognition of their strategic importance.
The government's now looking at amending the Mines and Minerals Act, the mining code in Zambia, to make it more investor-friendly. One has to see what will happen in the DRC, because there's an election next year.
African countries are capable of standing their ground, but the message that is to be sent is that if we were speaking from one standpoint as Africa, our diversity notwithstanding, you can imagine how it would be treated differently.
Would make such a world power.
Yeah, absolutely.
The competition for Africa's minerals will only intensify as demand for green technologies grows. The key question remains: will this new scramble for resources finally benefit African nations, or reproduce centuries-old patterns of exploitation?
I always like to use the analogy of the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the question then becomes, how do African stakeholders maximize the good, maximize the benefits of engagement, mitigate the risks of the bad elements, and eliminate the ugly elements of engagements? I hope that 2025 becomes an exciting year to observe how Africa exerts its agency in dealing with external powers.